This short tutorial explains these basic concepts involving DAT/CAP cost-share contracts, accessing and managing contract documents, signing and notarizing contracts, completing key sections of the contract, using change orders to add or delete practices or account for cost overruns, or obtain DAT/CAP approval when cost sharing is $50,000. When cost sharing a project with DAT/CAP funds, use the most current DAT/CAP forms, which can be downloaded from the web address listed on this slide. Use Microsoft Word to fill in the details of a cost share contract. Do not handwrite this information. After a contract is signed, scan it for electronic submission to DAT/CAP and retain the original during the maintenance period of the installed practice. The front page of the cost share contract is where landowners and their spouses sign. Landowners must always sign to consent the installation of a cost-shared practice on their land, even if they do not receive cost-share funds. Grant recipients, on the other hand, never sign on the first page. This data sheet can help ensure that a contract is correctly signed if a landowner is a legal entity such as a limited liability company. In this example, a review determined that Sleeping Cow is a Wisconsin-registered LLC and Tom Milk is a manager authorized to sign on behalf of the LLC. When individuals sign on behalf of a LLC or other entity, they sign on the same line as a landowner, indicating their status as a representative. The representative's spouse does not sign the contract. In the notarization acknowledgement, include the name of the entity on whose behalf the contract is signed. When a contract is recorded, notarize the signatures of all parties, including spouses. In all other cases, it is not necessary to notarize the signature of a spouse who signs the contract. When contracts are not recorded, the type of funding for a project determines which signatures must be notarized. For bond-funded projects, notarize the landowner's signature. For nutrient management cost sharing and other SEG-funded projects, notarize the landowner's signature if no grant recipient is involved. If SEG cost sharing is provided to someone other than a landowner, it is not necessary to notarize the land. Grant recipients always sign Exhibit A1, and their signatures must be notarized if they receive cost sharing for a nutrient management plan or other SEG-funded project. Exhibit A1 is also used if more than one landowner must sign the contract. In Section 1, identify non-DAT/CAP funding for the project, as well as the term that best describes the landowner connected to the project. For the legal description, DAT/CAP is replacing quarter section with descriptions based on parcel numbers or latitude longitude. Initially in a contract, parties signify their acceptance of specific terms. This is particularly important to establish that a landowner freely and knowingly accepts a continuing compliance responsibility. This is an example of how Section 3 of a contract should be completed for a manure storage project. If the engineered design for the project will use the newest NRCS standards, these standards should be listed in the box reserved for this purpose. Manure storage is also one of several cost-shared practices that require a nutrient management plan listed at no charge. Use this DAT/CAP guidance in the SWARM Working Manual to identify practice codes, required type of funding for a project, and the unit of measure for reporting an installed practice. In the case of manure storage cost sharing, 50.62 is the correct practice code to use. Bond funding is required to cost share this practice, and the unit for reporting the practice is a number, usually 1. For each cost shared practice, include the practice code and units installed, along with cost share rates and amounts. In this manure storage example, list the acres covered by the nutrient management plan, even though no cost sharing is provided. Once a contract is signed, a change order form should be completed when a practice is added or deleted or costs change. In certain cases, a landowner must sign the change order. For example, a signature is needed when costs increase more than $500. Change orders become part of the contract and should be retained. If cost sharing of $50,000 or more is provided, DAT/CAP must approve the project. Referring back to the prior slide, the $3,500 change order puts the $49,000 cost share practice over the limit for DAT/CAP approval. Counties should seek approval as soon as possible and always before a project is completed. DAT/CAP will approve the request if a county documents LCC approval of the project and meets other criteria. If you have more questions, please contact Kim Carlson or Stacy Leitner at the contact information listed on the screen.